Alrighty, so for today's D&E, we are going to be going over two different types of problems. We are going to be going over separate and part whole. Before we begin, I just want to go over some definitions while we get into the first problem, which is a separate problem. Now, a separate problem is when we are trying to find the change amount. We are trying to find what needs to be separated from the start amount. So for this type of problem, we are going to be using this model, which is the separate model. Your start plus your change, or plus or minus your change, equals the result. So that is whatever's separated from the start equals the result. So this is what we're going to be using today for this problem. Our problem is John and Peyton decide to bake cookies for a bake sale. If they sold 28 cookies and have 18 cookies left, how many did they start with? So on here, I'm going to go ahead and show you for the start, what we want to do is fill in. We don't know what they started with. That's what we want to try and figure out. So I'm going to go ahead and put a question mark at the start. For the result, they ended up with 18 cookies after they had sold 28 of them, which is how I'm going to fill in the rest of the result was they had 18 cookies left. What was separated from the original was they sold 28. Now, also, I'm going to be using two of these models. I just wanted to fill this in to show you. For this, I'm actually going to be using base 10 blocks to show the change. I quickly want to go over what base 10 blocks look like. One of these equals one flat, which is 100 units. One of these equals one stick or rod, which equals 10 units. And this is just a unit. One of these units, 10 of them fit into a stick or a rod. 10 of these rods fill in a flat. So I'm going to be using those in my problem. Now for the start, we still are going to put a question mark because we don't know what they started out with. That's what we're trying to figure out. Now the change, the change was 28. So I'm going to draw two flats to represent 20 and 8 rods to represent 28. Now the result was 18, so I'm going to draw one flat and 8 rods. Now what we want to do is add these two together to figure out what we started with. Now what I want to do first is add all of my rods together to make a flat. So I know that there's 8 over here. So we need 2 more over here to make a flat. I'm just going to add that right there. And then we're left with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 left. So we're left with 1 flat, 2 flat, 3 flat, 4, and then 6 rods. So they started out with 46 cookies, and that is your final answer for that one. So now what we're going to do is go ahead and move on to part whole, and I quickly want to go over a little bit of background knowledge on what a part whole is, and kind of what part whole is. This problem involves a part, and a whole. In this particular problem, we need to find what the whole is. So you have two different parts that make up the whole. Here is the set model that we are going to be using today. You can see you have part A, part B, and then you have the whole. You can also see down here that you have part A plus part B equals whatever the whole is. Now let me go over the problem, which is John has 16 chocolate chip cookies. Peyton has 14 peanut butter cookies. How many do they have all together? So what we're trying to find is how many cookies do John and Peyton have in all, or what the whole is. So I'm also going to be using base 10 blocks for this problem to represent. So I just wanted to show this to you one more time. I'm going to be using my set model. So what we have is part A, which is John has 16 cookies. So I'm going to draw one flat and 6 rods to represent part A. Now for part B, Peyton had 14 cookies, so I'm going to draw one flat and 4 rods to represent 14, which is how many cookies Peyton had. Now for the whole, what I want to do is add them together. So we have 6 rods plus 4. We already know that equals a flat. 6 plus 4 equals 10, which is a flat. So now we have 1, 2, 3 flats, which equals 30. So that's how many cookies they have all together. So part A was 16 plus 14 equals 30. And that is how you get your part whole and how to solve it. Thank you.